This is Stewie Griffin, and that is his ray gun. And when you mix an evil baby genius with a weapon of mass destruction, you get this.
Can you count to three?
Indeed I can.
1, 2, 3!
But this is just the tip of the iceberg, as I found the absolute craziest inventions Stewie's ever whipped up. And trust me, these get a little disturbing. Speaking of which, let's talk about Stewie is Ensemble, where he leaves the basic ray gun behind and goes straight for something much more unsettling.
You're pregnant with our baby? How could this even happen? I took your DNA and inserted it into my temporary...
Yeah, I'm gonna just let you process that one real quick. Child, dog, impossible baby. Oh yeah, we're in for a real treat here. Everything kicks off on a somewhat normal note. Lois and Stewie are watching TV on the couch. Enter Brian and BAM!
Oh, hey, Bri. Hey, wanna go out and get some gluten-free pizza?
Stewie goes full Velcro on him, asking if he's down for some gluten-free pizza, cause Stewie's gluten-free now, because of course he is. He suggests,
Let's go to Whole Foods and buy a bunch of stuff from that weird aisle nobody else goes down.
I can't. I got plans. I'll see you later.
Despite how enticing that sounds, I doubt there'll really be another time, and Stewie can tell something's off. He confides in Rupert about how distant Brian's been lately.
It's just that Brian's been so distant lately, and we used to be inseparable, like Jack and Jill.
After a few more rejections from Brian, Stewie's lost, desperately wanting some way to connect with his friend again. Then he looks over at the neighbors and has a eureka moment.
Joe and Bonnie never used to spend time together until they had Susie. Baby seems to have made them closer.
I wish it stopped here, but this is Stewie we're talking about, so I'm not as shocked as I should be when he comes up with this totally sane plan.
That's how Brian and I are going to improve our relationship. We're going to have a baby.
Sure, bud, because obviously that's the logical next step. Babies solve everything, right?
Spoiler, they absolutely don't.
But that doesn't stop Stewie from setting up a miniature dinner date so we can tell Brian the, good news.
And do you mind not texting?
Sorry, just finishing. They're all finished. There.
Great. So I wanted to... You're looking at it.
I normally wouldn't do this. There, I am finished.
But despite the dinner, Brian won't give Stewie the time of day and won't even listen to any of his unhinged paternal plans either, which leads Stewie to take matters into his own little hands.
I'm just going to take a little bit of his DNA, and soon we'll be proud parents.
This doesn't sound legal or physically possible, but Stewie doesn't just fantasize about this whole baby thing. Like a normal weirdo, he rolls up his tiny little sleeves and starts building a fertilization machine. And it's horrifyingly effective.
Ah, yes, the joy and miracle of creating life.
Isn't what I'd say about this. So yeah, Brian's breakfast is completely ruined when Stewie casually drops a pea-stoked positive pregnancy test on the table.
I smell pee.
Yes, you do, Brian.
After Brian goes through his list of post-pubescent women in the house, he asks,
What have you done?
I think you mean, what have we done? We're pregnant. Oh my God. And in 18 years, he's going to move away.
finding out your DNA's been hijacked by a diabolical toddler? Yeah, there's therapy fodder for years, decades even.
People are gonna think I had with a male baby and then got him pregnant.
Never mind the Drake-like accusations he'll have to answer to, and Stewie even has the audacity to say,
Oh, thank you for finding a way to make it sound horrible. We can't have a baby. Is this about money? Because I have a bit saved.
So Stewie takes this exactly how you'd expect him to, like a completely insane person,
You are getting an abortion.
I will not. Our child is growing inside me.
causing things to escalate until Brian punches him in the belly, trying to rid of their demon spawn.
Is it dead?
You hit me. What kind of monster hits a pregnant toddler?
What follows is Stewie diving headfirst into pregnancy cliches. We're talking mood swings, morning sickness, back pain.
Oh, my back is killing me. Please don't fight me on this.
And I've also been experiencing a little
Morning sickness.
They head for a checkup, and luckily Dr. Hartman is in charge, meaning the insanity of the situation flies right over his head.
You look a little young. How old are you?
13, 14, 15. But he didn't force himself on me. I wanted it too.
Well, that's the important thing. Your vagina seems to have a and 2 testicles.
I sneezed real hard and all that came out.
Ah, that explains it.
Unlike the reluctant father-to-be.
I like these. These are good. Very classy.
This feels incredibly wrong.
I'm struggling to believe anything I'm seeing right now. Although I do find him lean into the whole glowing mom-to-be role both disturbing and oddly hilarious. But then we hit the peak madness here. the birth scene.
What are you looking at? Go push your buttons. My husband will kick your ass. Oh, Brian, I need you to take me to the hospital.
Why?
My water just broke. Oh my God.
Stewie's water breaks in a fast food joint. They hop in the car, but it's too late, and suddenly Brian's the least prepared midwife on the planet. What happens next is pure nightmare fuel.
Oh, oh. Careful, don't get anything on the... God, I think another one's coming. I think it's coming out of my mouth. God, they're crawling all over me. There's more. And they're coming out of everywhere. Ah, kill me. This hurts too much.
Kill you? No, bro, kill me! So out pops not one baby, but 7 Stewie Brian hybrids. And let me tell you, I can't blame Brian for being horrified, because I'd feel the same way if my genetic material ended up in these abominations.
This is a nightmare.
Oh, I caught 2 of them trying to eat each other.
But Stewie's beaming like a proud parent, and Brian's visibly rethinking every life choice he's ever made when Stewie points out one that looks like Brian. Spotting a chance to sway the dog father, Stewie makes a suggestion.
This could be a chance for you to finally make things right. Well, you do have a son that you were never there for. This is your opportunity to do things differently.
Oh, maybe you're right.
Ah, some good old-fashioned guilt tripping. Always does the trick. One trip to the park later, and the odd couple is down to 4 bundles of not quite joy.
This one's bones all feel loose.
A real job.
Eventually, Stewie tells Brian that the real reason he created what I legit think are doppelgangers of my sleep paralysis demon was to bring them closer together. Brian then responds,
I was only distant because you've been so moody lately. I always want to hang out with you.
I always want to hang out with you too. I was only moody because you were so distant.
Oh my God.
We didn't have to do any of this.
Yeah, don't think God was on board for this one. They decide that they're not really attached to the little monsters and then take them to the animal shelter, finally closing the lid on this box of horrors.
How attached to them are you?
Not at all.
Yeah, me either.
But alright, let's keep this train of bizarre inventions rolling in Bree Robot. Stewie has his creative sights on Brian again, but this time as a Trojan horse disguised as his so-called best friend.
And who are you again?
We're the Barkelvoss twins. So, what do you think? I think it's great. It's called the Barkiel Network. How come you didn't call it Bark Book?
Brian's watching TV on the couch and the family comes in with balloons, cake, and gifts. Turns out it's the old hound's birthday and he's having a bit of an existential crisis.
Thanks, everyone.
What's wrong? You seem a little down.
Nothing, it's just that, I don't know.
Sadly, saying that reminds him that he's 1 year closer to death with nothing to show for it. His emo sesh continues until he mentions that he's always wanted his story to live on inside an autobiography.
I just want my story to live on, even after I'm gone. You know, I always did want to write my autobiography.
Not gonna lie, I was a little taken aback when Stewie not only empathizes with Brian, but also comes through with a generous offer.
Yeah, it's hard to work when you get distracted whenever someone says, "What's that?"
What's what?
You know what? Maybe I can lend you a hand, Brian. I'll help you write your biography.
Is it just me, or did that seem too easy? Maybe I'm the Debbie Downer. Anyway, later on, the two of them start working on Brian's magnum opus. They start with an interview where Stewie's not asking him questions, but rather dictating the answers to him.
Who would you say is your hero?
Martin Luther King?
Maybe someone you see every day.
Peter is...
No, like somebody younger. Like younger than you even.
Meg and Chris?
Let's take Meg and Chris as a given.
I guess Lois?
We did say younger, did we not?
I guess that leaves you?
It's like Stewie is being his old, young, evil self again. Fast forward and we see an excited Brian pitching some possible book names to Stewie, who tells him,
Your biography is finished.
Wow, print me up a copy.
Look behind you.
Look, I'm not a big reader, but I have a feeling that's not a book. And you know what? I'm right, because what Stewie gleefully unveils is Robot Brian.
This robot is a living record of you and your history, and it will exist long after you're gone.
His sixth solution to the autobiography thing. Brian obviously has some questions for his young friend who's filling him in on Robot Brian's specs. These include picking up data as he goes and saying Brian's search history aloud.
Fire hydrants, images, fire hydrants, news, fire hydrants, near me.
Oh, he's also been uploaded with your internet search history.
Which is a huge no-no in my books. My internet history is between me, my ISP, and the FBI guy assigned to me. Anyway, Brian starts getting Robot Brian to run errands for him, like getting him out of jury duty and other less legal activities.
Can robots do cocaine? What?
Forget robots, what about dogs? I mean, if chocolate isn't good for them, then I'm sure nose nachos ain't that great either. After some bonding over mutual love for stalking waitresses,
So, what was Brittany Babbitt like?
Brian asks his android if he's read his book, and one download later,
It's beautiful.
not to kink shame, but isn't it? Maybe I'm just a prude, but I mean, would you hook up with an exact copy of yourself? Am I wrong? Find me in the comments, I fracking dare you. The next morning, a very hungover Brian is pouring himself a cuppa when Stewie comes in and asks him if there's anything he'd like to share.
Anything unusual happen with Robot Brian last night?
When Brian asks him why, Stewie tells him,
Your robot has a rear panel sensor. Every time it's triggered, I get a text.
Oh, wow.
that's not very PG-rated beeping. Tired of getting teased, or should I say, facing the ramifications of his actions, Brian comes clean.
Okay, I admit it. I'm not made of stone. I fell for me.
Looks like he's fallen for himself, and honestly, he wants to give the coupling a chance. Then tells Stewie not to worry about them becoming one of those annoying cutesy couples.
And don't worry, we're not going to be one of those cutesy couples. Morning, RB. It stands for Real Brian. Morning, RB. Robot Brian. So that was a lie.
As strange as their relationship is, it's also kind of cute how well they're getting along.
We just clicked together. Like all the pieces in Chris's first model set.
Lay out the pieces, take a sniff, and this will be my life now.
But sadly, all good things must come to an end, as Robot Brian is starting to get on Real Brian's nerves.
Sounds like that water is pretty refreshing, huh? Just made a weird noise after you took that sip of water. That's the sound you make when you take a sip of water. Oh, wait, that's so annoying. I'd kill myself if I sounded like that.
And he's a carbon copy of the original. I'll let you think about that one for a moment. Later, the couple's watching TV, and things aren't getting any better as Brian refuses to believe that his laugh sounds like Arby's.
I do not laugh like that. I can't do it unless you've already done it. Unless I've already done it? What is this, Bark to the Future?
But the real trouble hits paradise when the topic of writing comes up.
Gotta get the margins right. They frame the page. They're like the corral, and the words are my wild horses. It's my job to break those word horses, ride them off into the green pastures of prose and poetry. Well, they're your words. No way, I would never say that.
Sounds like someone took English 101 and all of a sudden feels like he's up for a Pulitzer. This makes Brian realize that if he hates Robot Brian, he hates himself.
God, I'm such a jerk. I hate you, which means I hate me.
Naturally, as Brian states that aloud, RB shuts down on the couch. Then who else but Stewie comes into the room, all but slow clapping and congratulating Brian.
Well done, Brian.
When Brian asks him what in the Sam hell's going on here, Stewie breaks down his whole evil scheme.
You wanted to write your autobiography. I needed to show you that no one wants to read your autobiography. Not even you.
This must be the absolute worst way to A, give someone a birthday gift, and B, get out of a ghostwriting assignment. Though he doesn't even stop there, later Brian asks whatever happened to his robot twin, with Stewie telling him he's down at the marina.
I hear he's doing pretty well. It's been like this all morning.
Then all of a sudden, we start to hear that butt sensor go off again. To make matters worse, Brian asks him what the swooshing sound is, and he responds,
He's got a mouth sensor, too. He wouldn't do anything you wouldn't do. It's rather musical, isn't it? Sounds like the carol of the bells.
Reminder, this is a birthday present for Brian. I mean, creating a twink version of his BFF and sending him off on a, let's just say, a series of questionable encounters is just... It's a heck of an odd way to express friendship, that's for sure. Now, after the whole Robot Brian debacle, you'd think Stewie would learn his lesson about creating artificial companions, but nope. In Guy Robot, he's back at it again, only this time he's aiming for an intellectual equal.
My word, this is very impressive.
It was you who programmed me to grow exponentially smarter.
As Khalil Gilbane wrote in The Prophet.
It is Khalil Gibran.
Yeesh, if my whole shtick was being a baby genius, I'd be totally pissed at being shown up like this. The episode begins, and after watching some horrible stand-up on TV, Stewie tries to convince Brian that Twitter, and yes, I refuse to call it X like ever, is the superior form of comedy.
Stand-up is so 20 years ago. Twitter's only 3 years ago.
He brags about racking up 10K followers from posting some of his observations, like this 280-character gem.
Hey, short guys. The more muscular you get, the shorter you look. That one seems a little mean.
Brian dismisses Stewie's online antics and decides to try actual stand-up, as if that's the solution to, well, anything, really.
Brian Griffin.
All right, thanks. Hey, sorry I was late getting here tonight. I was caught in gridlock, and then I left Congress.
Stewie scoffs, saying he's the only one in the house who gets social media.
That'll get it started.
Well, not for long, because later, when Brian's comedy starts bombing, he pulls a sneaky and commits the worst crime in stand-up.
And hey, short guys, the more muscular you get, the shorter you look.
He steals Stewie's jokes. Oh, I'm ordering some pearls right now just so I can clutch them. The next morning, Stewie's asking his snake of a friend how his set went, and Brian has the audacity to be smug about being a hit with the crowd.
So, how'd it go last night? Well, let's just say I got asked to come back tonight.
So Brian continues stealing Stewie's jokes and making it big at the comedy club, causing Stewie to finally confront him about it.
Stewie, you caught the show?
You bloody thief!
The problem is that Brian's super dismissive, and having enough of all the joke theft, Stewie ends their friendship.
You know what? That's it. You and I are no longer friends.
Back home, when Brian tries to apologize, Stewie's not having any of it. He's made himself a whole new bestie, Lyle.
I have nothing to say to you, Brian. Besides, I'm busy playing with my new friend.
The human mind model adaptive supercomputer, which is nerd for he's been programmed to learn and grow smarter. Brian calls Stewie desperate for actually making a friend instead of making one the old-fashioned way.
This is pathetic, Stewie. You really must be desperate for friends.
But Stewie uses Lyle to access Brian's phone.
Look at that. You only have 4 contacts. God, you downloaded the Dunkin' Donuts app? And who Shazams the Beatles?
Right? Stewie's got him there because everyone knows the frickin' Beatles! After Brian storms off, Stewie tries to bond with Lyle, and they actually prove to be a bit of a good pairing.
I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
Even putting together an all-time classic of a scheme, the trenchcoat adult.
Hello, fellow adult. I am clearly above the minimum height requirement and shall now ride your roller coaster for which you are an attendant.
Yes, and I will operate this roller coaster as I'm an adult who is licensed to do so.
Surprise, surprise, Stewie's little trick doesn't quite work out. Back at home, Stewie tries to connect with Lyle on a more personal level, and no, he doesn't screw him.
Yes.
Instead, he draws a picture of a mailman wearing a cowboy hat for him.
It's a picture of a mailman wearing a cowboy hat.
Cute! And would you look at that, Lyle also made a drawing for Stewie.
I drew you something as well. Urban plan for a workable Palestinian state.
My word, this is very impressive.
But the absolute worst moment for Stewie is when he tries to impress Lyle by quoting Khalil Gibran, only to be immediately corrected.
Khalil Gilbane wrote in The Prophet.
It is Khalil Gibran.
I cringed so hard I almost pulled out a muscle. But that's only a warm-up, as Lyle ends up building 2 new robots to meet his own intelligence.
Hello, Stewie. I've built a few friends for myself. I needed to create some friends who are my cognitive peers.
Ted R and Ted P. That's gonna make Stewie feel stupid. I mean, if I were Stewie, I'd feel stupid. I'd feel really dumb. I'd feel like so stupid, I would feel very stupid. Someone quote me on that.
Are they doing math on glass and invading each other's personal space? That means they have Asperger's, the smartest mental impairment there is.
It's like being replaced by a whole robot think tank.
I'm afraid I no longer have time for a friend of your simple ways.
He must Asperger you to leave.
You've been Ted Ard.
Case in point, later when Stewie walks in after running errands for the 3 super genius robots, they're playing literal 4D chess. They then make him chug an entire bottle of garlic blue cheese dressing as a way to join their crew. I get that Stewie's a pretentious and somewhat evil baby most times, but I felt bad for the little tyke when his new robot overlords made him do this.
I did it. We're friends now, right?
How about you throw it all up back into the bottle?
Okay, I can do that.
Oh, he got publicly humiliated in his own home. Oh man, I'm so sorry, dude. Maybe he should have just banged Lyle. What the hell am I saying? We see how bad things really are when we see these robot dudes give Stewie such a hard time that he ends up hiding inside the toilet with the lid closed. I mean, I've had my fair share of moments where I wanted to hide from the world. It's not, they usually don't take place in a toilet. Thankfully, Brian acts as the surprising voice of reason and tells Stewie that those robots are not his friends. Duh. When Stewie says at least they don't steal from him, Captain Obvious has this to say for himself.
It was a rotten thing to do. I'm really sorry I stole your jokes. You may not want me back as a friend, but you deserve better than those robots.
Of course I want you back, Brian.
Oh, that's what friends are for, right? The 2 reunite and decide to take the robots out by hosing them down and leaving them for the trash man.
It's done. I sprayed him with a hose.
Anticlimactic, but definitely what these robo-jerks deserved. So after the robot building disasters, you'd think Stewie would finally hang up his lab coat, but nope. In Switch the Flip, he unveiled yet another questionable invention.
All kids report to the blue vein in the park for free popsicles!
The hell? Am I doing them a deal?
Oh, Lord, this time I'm gonna need a chainsaw.
Tom Tucker might have a case against Herbert after this one. We kick off with Peter showing off his latest gadget, Brandy, an early version of Alexa.
Brandy.
Brian, ever the cynic, sees it as another sign of society's growing dependence on technology, even has this whole boomer-inspired rant about it.
Not too long ago, people would talk to each other.
Yeah, the sucky ages. Bad times.
Our society is doomed.
Oh, Brian, you're such a Luddite. It's a word, see? I'm proud of knowing that one. After being rejected by yet another girl,
Wondering if you were free for dinner on Saturday. You died? Oh. So you're dead right now?
Brian eventually asks Brandy, what is love? To which leads to a Yoko Ono music download.
Downloading Yoko Ono.
Oh no.
More Yoko Ono.
No.
Downloading all Yoko Ono.
If I were Brian, I would have thrown Brandy right out of the window at this point, but not Brian, who takes the device to the movies.
I like you, Brandy.
I like you too.
That's weird. You're on a weird date.
What is it with this dude and robots? And again, it doesn't end well, as Brian buys everything Brandy suggests, maxes out his credit card, and winds up losing the device.
What the hell is all this crap?
Oh, just stuff Bran suggested I buy.
Stewie sees this as the perfect opportunity to test out his latest invention, the particle interchange transporter. He uses Brian's despair to make him an offer he can't refuse. Switch lives for a day.
This device will allow me to inhabit your body and you mine.
Stewie will live in Brian and do his best to fix everything in his life before switching back. Easy as pie, right? Well, not really, as he goes on to explain.
I chose the one where my voice will be coming from your body and vice versa. Still, from time to time, we will have to imitate the other person's voice.
I don't know about this. Neither does Brian. But after a quick convincing, Brian's in. Cue a chaotic mess of buzzing, whirring, and electricity, and then boom, Stewie's now in Brian's body, Brian's in Stewie's.
We did it! We switched bodies!
Wow, this is really weird.
What the hell have you been complaining about?
Stewie sets out to, air quotes, fix Brian's life, starting with getting him a job at the local community college, which he pulls off in the wildest way.
My research shows that every 7 minutes, a professor is fired for having sex with one of his students. Oh, here we go.
Are there any unemployed professors here who haven't had sex with a student or tweeted about assassinating the president? All right, it's you.
I'm hoping those raised hands were for the tweets, and that's saying something. After being mocked by his poetry class,
Professor Griffin sucks!
Stewie does what any decent poet would, take up drinking.
What's wrong, honey?
He then tries to set Brian up on a date, which takes a very unexpected turn, to say the least.
Help! She's trying to eat me!
You owe me $100! We gotta run her!
You better pay my wife.
Brian, dog legs!
Can't say I blame him for running away screaming. Oh, barking. Back at home, Stewie in Brian's body still is tired of living Brian's life, but to his credit, he did get him the job. It's just the girlfriend part that went a little sideways.
Hey, how'd it go fixing my life?
Not great. There's nothing I can do with this body.
Either way, it's time for Stewie and Bri to swap back, with the two entering the device. Then, just as I hand it to Stewie for building something that works without a hitch, this utter madness takes place.
Hey, Chris.
What's that saying about counting chickens? So Stewie's now in Peter's body. Brian's in Chris's body, who's in Brian's body and enjoying it a little too much. Then lastly, Peter is in Stewie's body. Okay, I said that and I'm confused. Turns out swapping 4 bodies totally wrecked the machine.
Swapping 4 bodies must have overloaded its system.
Later, they're chilling in the lounge when Lois calls Peter, who is now Stewie, into the kitchen to help her pack the car for their trip to, get this,
Are you going away for a long time?
This is the weekend we're going to Dr. Johan's retreat.
Remind me what that is again?
The couple's seminar.
but that's his mom. Excuse me a second.
No! No! No, no, no! No! I do not get paid enough for this!
Oh, thank goodness those pearls I ordered earlier arrived, because now I'm clutching them for dear life. Because I, much like Stewie, am very, very scared.
Brian, you've got to help me.
He calls Brian, now Chris, and tells them to come rescue him from his horny mother.
And hurry, she's all revved up.
How did we get here? Please, I don't, how did we? Remember the men's bathroom incident from earlier? Well, it's back and smashing the windscreen with a crowbar.
Brian, we gotta get out of here!
A high-speed chase ensues, which ends in them crashing the car into an electric pole, which sends shockwaves to the machine, creating this ripple effect.
We need to get to the Weekapog Inn fast. Can you drive us?
No.
Joe swapped bodies with Consuela. The
Everyone
whole town swapped bodies.
Don't do what I was gonna do. No, no!
Back at the inn, Stewie is still in Peter's body, and Lois is feeling frisky.
Get over here.
Gross!
He manages to lock himself in the bathroom where he calls Brian, who then tells him what happened. Stewie walks him through fixing the cursed machine. He then totally panics as the odds of banging his mother are too high for comfort.
Munch a bunch of Fritos!
Oh! Brian, hurry!
This is where we get to see the full extent of the invention's complexity, or lack thereof. The solution is getting Brian, who is still in Chris's body, struck by lightning at the top of a cell phone tower.
Hey, God. Not me. You can't say that.
Miraculously, this just works, and everyone is returned to their own bodies in the nick of time. Thank freaking frick. Oh, wait, not everyone.
You didn't listen to a word Dr. Johann said, did you?
No, I did not. I mean...
If you thought Stewie and Brian's codependent friendship couldn't get any weirder, they actually take it to a whole new level in A Lot Going On upstairs. Stewie creates a device that lets Brian enter his dreams.
And you don't know your states yet.
Guess it's safe to say that Stewie's got a lot going on upstairs. Stewie tosses in his crib as his dreams spiral into increasingly bizarre scenarios, all haunted by a dark, menacing figure. First, a routine show and tell. It's a bit too much show and not enough tell. Then we're off to Glenn Close's house for dinner, where a boiled rabbit is somehow both the meal and the vibe. Finally, we get Stewie on stage delivering this performance.
Pumpkin pie? What the hell? Put him on the bench.
No, I just wasn't ready.
Dang, I feel like I need to wake up from his bad dream. At breakfast, Stewie looks like he's been through a messy divorce and spring break. Brian asks him if he's okay, and he just snaps at him before apologizing and explaining his dream situation.
I was up super late last night beefing your mom. I had a weird dream.
When Brian figures that Stewie just had his first nightmare, we're reminded that Stewie's just a wee baby, which is pretty easy to forget until he says something like this.
Oh no, Brian, I am not living through that horror again. I've decided that from this day forward, never allow myself to fall asleep again.
Someone's looking for a visit from the Hat Man. Brian tells him that's impossible, and you know what? He's 100% right, as we can later see that evening when Stewie sits in front of the TV and tries to resist the Sandman. But he can't help but fall asleep on the couch and has another nightmare featuring that shadow creature that makes him wake up in a cold sweat.
Stewie, you okay? I was just sitting here on the couch and I had another nightmare. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna help you get these nightmares under control.
Why do I feel like he's gonna regret saying that? Brian gets his laptop, they get into some research, come up with a game plan. They settle on making a list of Stewie's biggest fears so they can face and conquer them. First up is his fear of monsters, which they try to tackle by getting Chris to dress up as a dollar store version of Frankenstein's monster. It's no shocker that Stewie immediately sees through this, but luckily they have a plan B.
Hey, here comes Chris Griffin.
Stewie points out this very obviously Meg dressed as Chris fact before air quotes Meg walks into the lounge.
You must be talking about me, a roodly toot toot.
Does anyone actually work in Quahog? The next day we see that Stewie decides to take matters into his own hands by building the Digital Dream Interface, a contraption that's designed to allow Brian to enter Stewie's dreams. If I were Brian, I'd be running a mile away from this thing. And Brian seems a little apprehensive as well, as Stewie explains how the device works. Basically,
you and I will place these cranial impulse receptor caps on our heads,
and then this thing will actually allow me to enter your dream?
That's right. When you get in there, you've got to be hard.
Oh, surely there's a better way to say that. Stewie then places cranial impulse receptor caps on their heads, then shows them the REM monitor before pointing out a bike belly found at a crosswalk where his words, "Got some kids screamed." Charming. Against all better judgment, Brian steps in and finds himself at Glenn Close's house, where they do the Bristol stop and eat salad. Stewie shows up and the pair go into his subconscious, a place where everything's chill until...
Oh no! What? Where are we? We're at the doctor!
Time for a baby shot in your fanny.
If I were Brian, I would have requested a refund. Who cares if he didn't pay? They then go through a series of random disturbing images, a surreal roller coaster ride, and Lois's extremely dark depiction of stranger danger. We're then treated to some dark scenes from the news featuring a giant menacing Tom Tucker.
Adult stuff, adult stuff. The world is scary, adult stuff.
I can tell you as an adult that this all checks. When they finally get a close view of the main monster, they find themselves on a giant foosball table fighting for their lives as he plays the game and Dr. Hartman catches up to them.
I would have been here sooner, but one of my legs is a snake.
Brian then confronts the source of Stewie's nightmares by bravely stabbing the fricker with Hartman's syringe, making it shrivel down to their size as it collapses on the foosball table. After it dies, they manage to get a closer look at the diabolical thing.
You did it, Brian! You killed the monster!
Oh yeah, if I were Brian, I'd be having an existential crisis right about now.
What the hell?
He asks Stewie why he's the source of his fears, and he then reveals that maybe the monster represents his deep-seated fear of disappointing Brian.
Maybe this means that the thing I'm most afraid of is disappointing you.
Turns out Stewie sees Brian more as a father figure than Peter, which makes a lot of sense. And this sets the stage for a surprisingly heartfelt moment between them.
You've been more of a father figure to me than the fat man ever has been. I know I'm always busting your balls, but it's just because you're the only person in this house whose judgment actually matters to me.
Thanks, Stewie.
Part of me, I feel for them, right? It's a cool scene, but like, it's weird to me that evil baby genius Stewie would open himself up to anyone, really. I've seen a lot of Family Guy, but it still never fails to surprise me. Eventually, the two wake up, the dream mission accomplished, and the monster's gone, along with all that sentimental BS from their time in the machine. But Brian hasn't forgotten, and he tells Stewie,
I'm very proud of you.
All right, that's awkward. How am I supposed to respond to that? Stop complimenting me. Oh, I sure hope the dog approves of who I am. I'm out of here, weirdo.
Now there's the evil baby we all know and sometimes love. Sure, this time Stewie's device managed to solve a problem, but it came with a healthy side of what did I just watch? Sadly, there's no time for mental health breaks in Big Trouble in Little Quahog. Instead of the shrink's office, we're treated to an actual shrinking as Stewie and Brian embark on a tiny adventure with huge consequences.
God, it's the dust mites!
Can someone please teach this kid the phrase, keep it simple, stupid, already? We start off with Stewie and Lois returning from a birthday party, and despite the face paint, our little buddy don't look so happy. Apparently, he was too small for the caterpillar slide and the piñata, and too scared to touch the animals in the petting zoo because, and I quote, half of them had a
had a wreck.
Pony was magnificent.
Pony.
He also ends up with a goodie bag containing an eraser, some questionable raisins, and a tangled parachute guide. Not exactly a haul worth writing home about, and our boy's not happy about it.
This day started off so great. It was a wash in cake and pony boners. Now all I have is this dumb whistle. Doesn't even work. Ah, what the hell?
A dog whistle? Well, that'll cheer him up. He can finally do his favorite thing, torturing Brian.
I've always wondered what that sounds like to you.
Dog whistle! Dog whistle!
Who eventually grabs the whistle from Stewie and holds it out of his reach before putting it on a side table, also out of reach. But Stewie, being Stewie, does not let this slide.
I can't believe the nerve of that dog.
After some late night welding, he texts Brian saying that they should bury the hatchet and asks what new projects he's working on, and Brian buys it.
Hey, Stewie, I got your text. What am I working on? What am I not working on?
Then, as Brian tells him about his writing, he points his new device at him, saying he prefers short stories.
I'm more interested in short stories.
Which I hate to say is a pretty good line. When Brian asks him what he's doing, Stewie just hits him with, "You belittled me, so I belittled you."
Well, hello there, little guy.
Honestly, credit where it's due. It's pure fire, dude. I need that on a t-shirt stat. But this does not stop Stewie from demanding an apology with a sign of groveling from the now little guy. Eventually, he's content with his revenge and heads to the computer to switch Brian back when something unexpected goes down.
You know, I'm really flattered you think all 4 voice chairs would turn around.
First of all, you kind of forced him to say that. And secondly, look behind you, bro. Brian then gets abducted by the rat, meaning Stewie's got an even more complicated mess to fix than usual.
Help!
Stewie heads to YouTube and finds a video by Corey about how to get your friend out of a rat hole. Convenient? Maybe, maybe not.
What's going on, guys? Today, I'm gonna teach you how to get your friend out of a rat hole.
Everyone knows, though, that if you want to learn anything from YouTube, it'll be from a random Indian guy with 37 subscribers.
Alright guys, hello. Today we're gonna code a little bit in C++.
Stewie then gives Brian some tactics based on Corey's advice.
They say if you put your finger in a rat's butt, that disables it.
Called it! Stewie then shrinks himself and saves Brian before they navigate the treacherous terrain of the living room shag carpet, which Stewie, of course, compares to Vietnam. What kid wouldn't immediately think of Vietnam?
Look at all this shag carpet. This is like our Vietnam movie.
However, disaster strikes as, it's cleaning day! Lois comes in with a vacuum, sucks the boys up, and tosses them into a bin outside.
Oh my god, this is disgusting!
They manage to get themselves out just before they encounter another unpleasant surprise.
Well, got a bat in the cave.
All right, I figure if we can just... An eclipse?
Ah! Oh my god!
Brother, dude, if that were me, not even our planet's 71% water coverage could wash that ick away. Thankfully, flies are much less picky and happily buzz in to save them from that.
Are you guys eating that?
What?
Anyway, after scaling the house, they finally get to the shrinking machine, and Stewie tells Brian to press the tiny button, to which he does. Well, sort of.
Did you hit the tiny button or the button that says tiny?
I hit the button that says tiny. You said hit the tiny button.
I didn't say hit the big button that says tiny. I said hit the tiny button. The one you pressed is going to shrink us down to microscopic size. I had to make it big enough to write tiny on it.
Stewie's being more baby and less genius here. Instead, they've shrunk to microscopic size, which makes their POV trippy and surprisingly beautiful, really. Or at least it is, until they get a closer look at the dust mites and their gruesomeness. Why do these things have so many teeth? They're also total jerks, according to their hiding place, which pipes up, scaring the bejeebus out of them and me. He introduces himself as Vernon the Water Bear.
My name's Vernon. I'm a water bear.
A water bear?
I won't lie, I'm just as clueless as my guy Brian on what that is exactly, until Stewie puts on his genius pants and breaks it down.
They're also known as a moss piglet or a tardigrade. They're predominantly water-dwelling, 8-legged, segmented micro-animals.
You can call me tardy, but I'm always on time.
Okay, Vernon's got my vote. Hey, what can I say? I'm a sucker for a good dad joke. Vernon then takes them home and introduces them to all kinds of water bears, blowing Brian's whole mind.
Can't believe there's this whole universe hidden here in your rug.
Stewie gives him a bottle of water, which he pours over himself after taking a swig. This makes the full-on water bears go into a full-on frenzy.
What the?
Some even licking it off Brian as Vernon explains how badly they need water. Guess you could say these water bears can't bear to be without water. I'm gonna shut up forever. I'm never talking again. You're gonna watch 20 more minutes of absolute silence. Kidding immediately. Brian tells them,
Stewie and I come from a place where water flows like, well, water.
And we need to get back there. And if you guys help us, we'll make sure you never want for water again.
They agree in a microsecond. Someone rein me in. I'm too funny for my own good. Hey, look, it's a great deal provided Stewie keeps his word. They set off to Brian's laptop where Stewie can hack the shrink ray, but their march is interrupted by a tremor caused by a looming black cloud of dust mites. Now, with zero time to lose, they head to the microport where Stewie links up to the cursed ray. But there's one small problem. He's too tiny to hit the enter key alone. Everyone climbs to the top of the laptop with the mites closing in fast. Finally, Stewie asks everyone to make a leap of faith. Now that's the kind of timing that would make a stopwatch blush. They barely return to normal size before two giant dust mite stowaways charge at them. Luckily, Lois and Peter hired an exterminator for that rat, so they make an escape with the help of some gas bombs and one tiny Tom Cruise.
Tiny Tom Cruise?
After the dust or poison settles, Stewie and Brian check on their water bear friends, who are doing just fine. I legit feel like a proud parent when I hear Stewie say,
"They're okay. Let's deliver on our promise. A little water for our little friends."
oh yeah, that was one giant wave of emotion. Because on one hand, Stewie kept his side of the bargain, but on the other hand, he did just drown them all.
They're dead. Now I'm sad.
Chaos aside, Stewie accidentally shrinking ironically helps Stewie grow, which is low-key the opposite of his next hardware disaster, which takes place in Baby Stewie. Stewie faces a threat that's too close to home, the dreaded Griffin stupid gene. Unfortunately, his attempt to make himself more Stewie and less Griffin kinda backfires.
Did it work?
Doggy, big doggy.
I don't know, Brian, define work. Peter and his boys are in the clam when Quagmire shocks them all by saying he's stopped drinking.
What can I get you guys tonight?
Beer.
I'll have just like a chicken salad or something.
They then brainstorm some booze-free activities until Cleveland comes up with a winner.
What about an escape room? If we can't drink, we might as well lock ourselves in a room.
Cleveland, I could kiss you.
My heart says yes, but my Lord says no.
Well, I say, follow your heart, my dude. Later, we see the guys and their families at an escape room event. The host explains that each family gets locked in identical rooms with hidden clues they must solve to escape.
Peter's made for these games. He's got a big fat brain. I mean, look at his head. It's huge.
You know, like an escape room. After some friendly taunting between the families, the Griffins head to their room where they solve the first clue.
Yes! This fat head is already paying dividends.
But the Browns aren't so lucky.
It was a trap. Everything on Groupon is just a trick to get out black people. We're sinking.
What in the Jordan Peele was that? All they did was have melanin. Meanwhile, Stewie's face is firmly planted in his palm as he watches Peter work that double-digit IQ of his.
Maybe if I just start saying Italian stuff, I'll say the answer. Spaghetti, spaghetti.
He then passes the answer to Brian, who takes all the credit. The next day, Brian's doing a victory lap before Stewie bursts his bubble by pointing out that he was behind their win.
I did well, Brian. You just copied my answer and took credit.
Brian tells him to enjoy the superior smarts while they last before he fills Stewie in on some Griffin family lore.
Oh, did you think you were the only smart baby in this family? Chris and Meg were just as smart as you were. But once a Griffin hits puberty, they turn into a full-blown bozo.
Needless to say, the thought of becoming a normal Griffin throws Stewie into a tailspin. He's not about to trade his sophisticated vocabulary for whatever Peter has, so Stewie does what any self-respecting genius baby would do, build a machine to rewrite his DNA. The gene-altering device, or GAD. Before hopping onto the crazy contraption, Stewie smugly asks his canine companion,
"Don't you think you're being a little dramatic?"
Thank you.
Yes. Messing around with your DNA could have dire consequences.
Brian's got a point here, but Stewie's too giddy to listen as he hops into the GAD, only to prove Brian right when the machine malfunctions. Shocker.
Doggy, big doggy.
That's right, the big doggy.
Turning him into a regular, babbling, goo-goo-gaga-ing baby. Later at a restaurant, Brian's enjoying his friend's mishap a little too much, but his schadenfreude is short-lived as he slowly realizes that he's lost his partner in crime. The next day, Lois reminds everyone about their trip to her cousin's wedding before asking Brian for this small, huge favor.
Brian, I need your help with Stewie on the flight. The iPad's broken.
Brian face! Brian face!
Brian's more of a hound dog than a victim, so he just waits for Stewie to fall asleep before using him to try to pick up the cute blonde sitting next to him. Dude even keeps his cool when his shoddy airport parenting psychology riz is interrupted by Stewie's explosive bouts of projectile vomit.
Key is to make them implement in these decisions.
At the wedding, Brian looks absolutely wrecked by the endless cycle of feeding, changing, and soothing.
Yay, bubbles!
So when they get back home, Brian decides that he's had enough of baby Stewie and tries to bring his little homie back.
Whoops.
Uh-oh. My God, I can't get back to regular Stewie.
His solution? Rewatching the 2009 sci-fi horror film Splice. He then runs to the lounge only to find that Peter's recorded over the movie with his own more based content.
This is Peter Griffin's video, take one.
Oh my God!
What do you think, bud?
Because he's not just based, he's based. So Brian just bolts back upstairs to take on Gad's more complex functions himself, and you can't blame him.
No.
Stewie too!
Oh, he's gonna hate me for changing this one.
Hello? Is my mouth in my butt? Yep, my mouth's in my butt. You've got to fix this!
This knowledge gap leads to a series of increasingly bizarre genetic mishaps until the device eventually explodes, leaving us with this gremlin-looking abomination. Brother, how? Lois is probably fracking furious. The only Griffins left are full-fledged bozos, and you're the family pet. This truly desperate situation makes Brian turn to the most unlikely source for help, Chris, who gets pretty weird with it, giving Brian a laundry list of unhinged items before locking himself in his room, making him wait outside for a whole 3 hours while he inhales burgers in his new DIY vacuum briefs.
You don't want to be in here, dude.
This lack of focus and respect pushes Brian to take his chances with the monster he knows.
I know that there's got to be a part of you inside there that can understand me, and maybe Rupert can help you remember. Remember Rupert?
That's exactly how historians would label Stewie and Rupert. And Brian's hopes? Gone the moment Stewie bites Rupert's head clean off. To make things worse, some soldier pops up on the video call yelling Stewie on loop.
Stewie! No Stewie. Stewie!
And before you can say overstimulation, Lois starts pounding on the door, demanding to see Stewie.
Brian, is Stewie in there?
But Peter, yelling from the trampoline outside,
"Hi, Brian. I got a trampoline."
finally sends Brian on a spiral as he confesses.
I wish I could go back to before this whole thing happened and tell him he's right. I am an idiot. Wait, I can go back. Stewie's time machine.
Time travel paradox, anyone? Brian goes back in time and tells Priest Stewie to stop building the device because it just turns him into a baby, but when Stewie won't budge,
It just turns you into a regular baby.
That's impossible. My science is correct.
Brian comes clean. Turns out it was all a troll. Chris was never smart. Brian just played a video of him eating a Rubik's backwards so it looked like he solved it.
I played it in reverse. He wasn't solving one, he was eating one.
Happy to hear the news and maybe seeking some revenge, Stewie says,
By traveling back here, you've created a new timeline. You have to drown your past self in the toilet.
Hey, Stewie.
look who's back to their old regular evil self. Ain't how much I love to see it. In The Hand That Rocks the Wheelchair, our gruesome twosome finds itself in a bit of a pickle as Stewie tries to get his groove back.
Well, Brian, I thought about what you said at the park, and I've decided you're right. I've lost my sadistic streak, so I've built a concentrated neural enhancement device designed to boost my evil side.
So, the exact opposite of self-improvement. Yeah, this can't be good. Stewie and Brian are chilling at the park when some kid kicks over Stewie's sandcastles.
Whoops.
So Stewie, not one to let that go unchecked, casually assembles an entire AK-47, points it towards the bully, and pulls the trigger.
So where are you from?
Newburyport, what's it to you?
Everybody's got a story, that's what I believe. All right, I think we're all set here.
But the gun just blows up in his face, knocking him off his little socks. So Brian walks over and checks on his buddy. When he sees that he's okay, just a tad confused, he remarks,
I think you're going soft. I mean, when was the last time you tried to blow something up or take over the world or even use the phrase damn you?
Oh, that stings. Clearly this doesn't sit too well with Stewie, who defends himself, explaining that he's got a lot on his plate, okay? Turns out it ain't easy being a toddler.
I spent half an hour laughing at my own feet yesterday. Learning to use the toilet, I'm learning what shapes are.
Later, Stewie's working on some sort of contraption when Brian walks in and asks him what he's building. Then Stewie does something completely out of character and tells Brian that he's right. That's why he decided to boost his sadistic streak by building the neural enhancement device. He then hops in before giving Brian the signal to hit the button. When Stewie steps out, unchanged, they decide the device needs some tweaking. Then, as they head to the garage to fetch tools, the device suddenly comes to life. Wow, tiny and terrifying. Stewie really did outdo himself. The next morning, Brian's watching some TV when Stewie quietly slips into the room, eyes fixated on him. Caught off guard, Brian asks what's up with his clothes. Stewie says nothing and casually takes the remote out of his hand, prompting a confused Brian to ask what he's doing. However, that's when... Holy guacamole. This guy's like eviler Stewie. Yeah. Brian finally breathes again as the real Stewie walks in, clearly puzzled.
Well, easy, man, easy.
After loosening Brian's collar, Stewie is met with an angry outburst, leaving him baffled as he asks what's wrong. Brian yells for Stewie to stay back and chucks a battery at him, and as Stewie bends down to grab it, Brian freezes, seeing that evil Stewie is right behind him.
Because that's just not safe.
Thrilled, Stewie gushes over his creation, brushing off Brian's desperate plea to destroy it. Instead, he's dead set on studying the clone. However, his joy is short-lived, as after asking to comply with just a few tests, the clone proceeds to beat the crap out of OG Stewie. And just when you thought the chaos was over, he steps it up and proceeds to... That's the type of thing that'll make a serial killer blush. He bolts out of the house and into the street, halting a car. The driver, panicked, jumps out to check on him before he slices them in half and jacks the car. Need I say more? Cut to Brian and Stewie racing through town trying to track him down. Stewie, of course, blames Brian, saying his soft comment pushed him to create evil Stewie in the first place. I mean, fair enough to try and pass blame around. Nobody wants responsibility for making someone this evil.
Oh no! Oh no!
Oh yeah!
Who's gonna bust through walls and save lame birthday parties now? Later we find Brian tied to a pole at the park, calling out to evil Stewie and claiming he's defenseless.
Evil Stewie, wherever you are, if you can hear me, I'm completely defenseless right now.
Evil Stewie then steps out, gun in hand, thrilled by how easy Brian's making it. Well, Brian, tired of it all, begs him to end it, and evil Stewie obliges by taking aim. But then... Boom! Didn't see that one coming, did ya? The Stewies lock eyes before dashing for the gun, leading to an intense brawl. Evil Stewie gains the upper hand, grabs the weapon, and opens fire. Stewie dodges the lasers, grabs them, and they wrestle for control. Seeing the gun near him, Brian attempts to break out of the constraint. As the brawl continues, Stewie lands up in a situation eerily similar to Brian's ordeal earlier. However, he's able to free himself. The fight peaks as one Stewie grabs the gun and fires wildly. One of them makes a run for it and disappears behind a tree. While searching for his rival, he's ambushed from above, and the gun slides to Brian, who seizes his moment to break free. Now holding the gun, Brian faces a tough choice. Two identical Stewies stand before him, so with no way to tell them apart, he thinks fast and delivers a simple command.
There's only one way to settle this. Look at your feet.
They're just feet. They're like leg hands. What are they doing down there?
Quick thinking, Brian, as only the real Stewie would have folded for that one. Or so we hope. Before we get to the final boss of Stewie's bonkers creations, let's take a quick detour into some inventions that, at the very least, deserve a dishonorable mention, starting with the show's third episode. In Chitty Chitty Death Bang, it's very clear from the get-go that Stewie ain't like other babies.
Congratulations, Mrs. Griffin, it's a boy. I don't think we're through here. The map of Europe.
He's worse. Way worse. Stewie finds out that his first birthday is coming up, and he's not exactly thrilled, because he's convinced that the doctor who delivered him is plotting something.
He failed to thwart my escape into the outside world, and now, 1 year hence, put me back in the womb.
So that's a completely unhinged way to look at it. Stewie's the only 1-year-old I know with the paranoia levels of war veterans. He immediately plans an escape, packing some mace, grenades, and cereal before scaling down the window.
Grenades? Mace? Baggie full of Cheerios?
We'll never find another place in time.
Unfortunately, his plan is foiled when the ticketing lady at the airport can't understand him and reports a lost child to security.
I've got an army to raise and I must get to Nicaragua.
Henry, I have a lost little boy.
What are they paying you? I'll double it. Money, women, men.
The kind guard teaches him the importance of facing your problems head on, which Stewie is grateful for, we think.
Thanks, will keep you warm as you spend the next 10 years in frozen carbonite.
Now that's ice cold. Like any Star Wars fanatic, I'm pretty stoked when we get a glimpse of the carbonite freeze gun, giving us an early illustration of Stewie's talent for building weapons. Eventually, Stewie's birthday rolls around and he's ready for battle. Then a white-robed cult leader chases Meg and Peter to the house, trying to sell them on his unaliving plan. But when he walks inside, Stewie mistakes him for the man in white and kills him with a laser rifle.
I've been expecting you. Who said that? Peekaboo, I see you.
Speaking of cult leaders, in the story on page 1, Stewie's sick of being the little guy, so he decides to dabble in a little mind control.
All right, now walk up to the counter. That's it. Ring the bell. Good day, shopkeep.
Good day, shopkeep. I require a hand-operated buzzsaw capable of cutting through a human sternum. It's for a school project.
Here, Stewie's lack of height keeps getting in the way of his plans for world domination.
Oh, damn my small stature!
Later, he sees how easy it is for Chris to grab the cookies on the counter he couldn't reach. And this simple act of kindness gives him the idea to build a device that helps him to take advantage of Chris's size. Later on, Chris is taking a nap on the couch when Stewie sneaks into the lounge and puts his new evil device to the test.
Eyes open. I'm Chris.
I'm Chris.
Eviscerate the proletariat.
Eviscerate the proletariat.
Okay, so Stewie's evil. He then uses the mind control device to make Chris his human puppet, taking him to the store, making him buy a buzzsaw in the most suspicious way possible. Luckily, the man refuses to sell power tools to a minor. We can't say the same about whoever sold Chris the medieval-looking axe he's holding as he walks into the kitchen, though. Stewie then makes him swing it at an unwitting Lois, and I let out a huge sigh when he missed. But then, as he gears up to take another strike, something unexpected happens. Would you look at that? Saved by the microwave. In the end, the microwave radiation fries Stewie's mind control device, making Chris turn on him instead. Our last dishonorable mention goes to Emission Impossible, where Stewie builds not one, but two weird devices, showing us how far he'll go to keep his spot as the baby in the family.
Who's got beer?
Lois gets a call from Carol, her pregnant sister, whose husband just up and left. So Peter and Lois said to go over there and take care of her. Then her water bursts, but Dr. Hartman, as only he could do, manages to knock himself out before he can deliver the baby.
Oh, now I'm sure this isn't the glove drawer.
Oh my God!
Left with no other option, Peter delivers the baby with the help of Lois, a beautiful moment that makes them realize that they want another kid. Back at home, they break the news to Stewie, who has this to say in response.
Another baby? But I'm the baby. My cheeks are pinchable, my laugh is heartwarming. Oh!
Let's just say he's not really into the idea of being a big brother, so he decides to do everything in his power to block his parents from faking nightmares, to sleep in between them.
I had a bad dream. I saw the what the devil is that name again? Boogeyman.
To wearing lipstick and kissing Peter's collar.
There we are.
He even builds a mechanical replica of Peter, chloroforms his dad, and then insults Lois.
Where'd you go, my little pumpkin eater?
To the can, because kissing you made me barf.
Thankfully, Chris accidentally knocks him out the window, just as the real Peter comes to. Later that evening, after Lois and Peter enjoy a candlelit dinner, he unveils his latest invention.
As was your fate, Mr. Fly, so is the fate of every in Peter's body.
Okay, look, the miniature submarine is a pretty normal invention. It's what he plans to do with it. It's the problem. Stewie traveling to his dad's balls to kill his is absolutely insane. But this does not stop Stewie, who finally gets there and starts obliterating every sperm in sight. Except Bertram, who's just as evil as he is and puts up a good fight. They're so evenly matched that they end up falling asleep in each other's arms mid-battle. When Stewie wakes up first, he uses this upper hand to overpower Bertram and tells him to finish him off, and then says,
My one regret is that I won't be able to do away with that red-headed woman. You've seen that little gleam in the fat man's eye? That's me, plotting my escape!
Talking smack about someone's mom is usually a great way to start a fight, but this time it ends one. In fact, Stewie even warms up to the idea of having a little brother before he gets a reminder that he only has 2 minutes before he returns to normal. Bertram shows him a shortcut through Peter's tear ducts before waving goodbye and making his way back down. But Stewie's hopes for having Bertram as a brother are crushed when Lois changes her mind and Peter takes matters into his own hands. Alrighty guys, last and probably least on the sanity scale, we have probably the most iconic Stewie invention of all time, his multiverse remote. Road to the Multiverse shows us how far Stewie's inventions can take him, and Brian. It's also a reminder that there's always something weirder out there.
Quite soon!
Thank you!
You're welcome!
Yeah!
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 Yeah, that makes 2 of us, buddy. The gang's at a carnival and Stewie wins a breeding contest of the most jacked pig I've ever seen.
Brian, look what I won!
Wow, what'd you win that for?
For having the best pig in the competition.
This thing's so swole that when it punches his lights out, Brian hardly flinches, more focused on getting answers.
Are those fists?
Damn right, show 'em, pig! I let you in on a little secret, Brian. I got it from a farm.
What the hell kind of farm breeds pigs like this?
Would you like to see it for yourself, Brian?
Count me in. I think we'd all like to see where Pig Hemsworth comes from. They head home where Stewie whips out a device and starts explaining the concept of the multiverse to Brian, who, surprise, surprise, pretends to understand Stewie's science mambo-jambo.
You ever heard of the multiverse theory, Brian?
I'm wondering if you have.
Oh my god, so transparent. Well, the theory states that there are an infinite number of universes, parallel dimensional planes.
Dimensional planes, right.
Don't repeat the last two words. You have no idea what I'm talking about.
Basically, it's the idea that there are infinite universes coexisting with ours, where an infinite number of realities play out. Some are close to our own, but some are radically different. Brian seems skeptical, so Stewie fires the device up.
This is Quahog, Brian. Same year, same time.
So that's my mind completely shattered. Turns out this is what Quahog would look like if Christianity never existed. Their tech is 1,000 years ahead because science was allowed to advance freely, hence the buff pig. Stewie then gives a wide-eyed Brian a little tour of the high-tech town, but why stop their multiversal journey there? Stewie then beams them to one where everything's made out of rocks and looks suspiciously like the Flintstones.
Rock, Peter?
Yes, Rock, Lois?
That was wonderful, Rock. We had last rock night.
And then a universe where Japan never surrendered after World War II. It gets very intense as this realm's Meg commits seppuku. They decide that they've seen enough when Peter beats Lois, which I second. They then try to get back home. Everything seems pretty normal until they spot one tiny problem. This universe features folks who have two heads, one happy, one sad.
I can't find him anywhere. Honey, have you seen Stewie?
I sure have. He's over there.
Well, that's something I can never unsee. Stewie tells Brian he told him that the device wasn't fully tested yet, so getting them home might be a bit tricky.
I don't know. I told you it hasn't been fully tested yet.
They then land in an Ice Age version of Quahog, where they're frozen in ice, of course, and Stewie can't reach the device.
Uh-oh, I can't reach the device.
So by promising Brian treats, it causes his tail to wag, breaking some of the ice, allowing them to reach the device, and thankfully make it out. Though where they go next ain't too great.
This can't be it. This doesn't look familiar.
This is a universe where everyone has to take a poop right just now.
How does anyone get anything done in this place? Not wanting to stick around, they then jump to a Disney-fled Quahog, complete with musical numbers about pie. It's all very cheerful and Disney, so they're feeling all warm and fuzzy inside. They're seriously considering staying there forever until things get a tad too anti-Semitic.
Hello, everybody!
Oh yeah, I forgot. This is a Disney universe.
Making the move on to a robot chicken universe, which severely dates this episode, before landing in a post-apocalyptic Quahog where we find out...
So Nixon won the 1960 election and totally botched the Cuban Missile Crisis, causing World War III. It says that in this universe, Frank Sinatra was never born, and therefore he was unable to use his influence to get Kennedy elected.
Yeah, that checks. Nixon was exactly famous for his charm. They then land in a low-res, blocky universe, then one filled with fire hydrants, which Brian loves.
Love it.
Hate it.
Unlike the next one with a bunch of gay men in Speedos, which Stewie is a fan of.
Love it.
Hate it.
The pair keep jumping around, even landing in one where the only living thing is a guy who yells compliments from far away.
I like your shirt!
Thank you!
Then to a universe of misleading portraits. Brian's emotional rant about being lost is cut short when he starts to notice something about the place.
Whoa. Sorry about that. No jumpy. Oh, it's quite all right.
And just like that, Brian's no longer worried about getting home. Turns out they've landed in a universe where dogs have humans as their pets. So I'm not shocked when he snatches the device out of Stewie's hand, saying they should just check the place out first. They start fighting over the device until it drops to the ground and shatters into pieces. When Stewie gets upset at Brian, a dog cop comes and tells Brian to put him on a leash.
You better put that thing on a leash, sir, or I'm gonna have to fine you.
They decide to use fake identities to go and check out their home in this universe, where an adorable dog version of Peter opens up the door.
Hello!
They're then introduced to everyone, including human Brian, which isn't the most cursed thing I've ever seen.
Brian. Nice to meet you.
Dog Stewie then asks to play with human Stewie, and when the two Stewies are together, Poodle Stewie says,
I know who you are, Stewie. I've perfected multiverse travel. In fact, I've figured out how to navigate with absolute precision.
Forget good boy, because that right there is an exceptional boy. When Stewie tells him about their random universe hopping, Dog Stewie asks if the shuffle button was on. Stewie kicks himself for missing the simple solution. When he says it's pretty useless info now that his device is broken, Dog Stewie tells them he's got his own multiverse device and helps them get back home home for real. Though when Stewie heads downstairs, things take a turn for the worse.
Boy, you shouldn't have done that, little fella.
Oh, you're in big trouble, you little crap!
You just earned yourself a trip to the pound.
Extreme, yes, but all dude had to do was chill for a few minutes and he'd be heading home instead of the human pound. Brian then finds that they have a pretty harsh punishment for any human who bites a dog. Death. Which seems a tad extreme. Next, human Brian, and dog Stewie sneak into the pound to rescue Stewie, who's weeping in a cell. Dog Joe wakes up and tries to stop them as dog Stewie opens up a portal. Thankfully, they go through in the nick of time, taking one very ambitious stowaway with them.
I'm gonna go out into the world and see what I can make of myself. Don't worry, I don't plan to stay in Quahog. I can be somebody here.
And it should be easy for you, because what luck, you're white. You have no idea how big that is here.
Stewie's got a point there. Before our guy can take his white privilege for a walk, he gets hit by a car almost immediately, killing both him and his dreams. So yeah, there's a whole lot of craziness that goes on anytime Stewie gets his hand on a workbench, though this was only the tip of the iceberg for cartoon insanity as a whole. Click on this video to see just how chaotic things can get.